What's up, guys? Let's hop into it. One of the best new Frozen Orb Sorceress builds for Season 4 of Diablo. Keep in mind, just as a heads up, the time of me making this video is on the PTR, so things are subject to change, but a lot of you guys saw the build and were like, dude, give me this build. It looks absolutely insane, and it is. It's going to be just Frozen Orbs everywhere, pretty much permanently freezing most of the enemies with the exception of any pinnacle boss fight at the very end, but you can actually still build up the stagger bar quite fast with the Conjurations buffs with the newer Frost Nova buffs. So starting right off, this build over here is going to make heavy use out of one of the brand new uniques called the Fractured Winterglass. And it is not an uber unique in the gameplay that you guys are seeing. I have it maxed out in the masterwork. However, I did not get bonus to Conjuration Mastery. That's the stat that you actually want boosted up. It's random. You try to hit it, and if it doesn't work, well, oh well. The main thing that you want to get with the Fractured Winterglass is actually a high roll on the unique ability. So the reason why this build works and comes online at a huge buff versus when you don't have it is when you shoot out Frozen Orb, you're going to have a aspect that actually lets Frozen Orb pop multiple times. And each time that it pops, you're going to have up to a 50% chance to spawn in a Conjuration. That's how on my skill bar, I do not run Hydra, or I don't have to run Ice Blades, or I don't have to run the little Lightning Spear, but I still have them shooting all across the map. And every single one of those is going to give me a boost in damage, move speed, as well as mana regen. So it's huge for the build. And then also on Lucky Hit, the Conjurations have up to a 100% chance to launch another Frozen Orb. That's how I'm shooting all these Frozen Orbs out. And on top of that, with the brand new tinkering on the weapons with the Temper ability, we're going to have extra Frozen Orbs shoot out. So in theory, one Frozen Orb can shoot out, and it's going to have all these additional chances for extra Frozen Orbs. You can basically cast Frozen Orb one time, shoot out 4 Frozen Orbs. Each one of those can pop, summoning more Conjurations, and each one of those Conjurations can summon more Frozen Orbs. So that's basically how it works. In terms of gameplay, all we really need to do is just spam on Frozen Orb. The rest of the skills, it's kind of like your bread and butter on the Sorceress, which is basically your shields and teleport. If you want to put in Frost Nova for the build, sure, but we were going to get Frost Novas for free anyways, but nonetheless, you can still activate it. It's totally a-okay. But pretty much, unless it's a boss, and look at that stagger bar, like that was just built up in a few seconds, so it's a great build to play with your teammates. And on top of that, this is over a Sigil 100, so this build can obviously take on Sigil 100, and obviously in the pit you can go higher, but there really isn't a huge incentives even if you clear out the max tier in the pit, as in the monsters level 200. You don't get any special magic reward at the very end. So I want to say most people probably won't go that high in it, but the build can go far beyond Sigil 100. So starting right off, let's go over kind of how the build plays, and keep in mind any build website right now doesn't have all of Season 4's bells and whistles added, so I have a bunch of notes here and I'm going to go over them real briefly. So starting right off, as far as the skills go, you don't have to play Ice Blades in the build, but ideally you just need to play Frozen Orb, the double shields. If you want to play Frost Nova on your bar, that's cool, but teleport. And then for your enchantments, Frozen Orb, as well as having the Frost Nova over here is going to be kind of what you're looking for. The reason why is this actually got a buff, so our Conjurations can apply Frost Nova when they hit enemies, and we're going to have so many Conjurations. And then Frozen Orb just gets to activate again for free, and it's going to be also in our items. So in here, we can't actually put in all the things for Season 4, so keep in mind, take it with a grain of salt over here, as some of these things could change, but this is the exact build that you guys wanted from the gameplay that I've been playing for the past day, and it's a really good build. So as far as like the aspects, let's go over that, because if I mouse over the items, it won't be accurate, because there's certain things, again, on the builder websites, it's not implemented in, because Season 4 isn't out yet. So we're running Everliving, Juggernauts, Elementalists, the aspect of Disobedience. So if you want to push beyond Sigil 100, you want to run Disobedience and Juggernauts. If you don't care about going past and beyond that, then by all means, just run Juggernauts. You're totally fine. You can throw in whatever you want. You can do an additional aspect if you want for more offensive stats. That's fine too. And then this one over here, there's a lot of different things that you can put in the boot category. You can just get additional movement speed. That's totally fine too. And then a Cursed Touch, because you need some sort of source of vulnerability for the Sorceress that is not your Frost Nova. And also with the Frozen Orb, I like to get myself some extra mana. A lot of people were asking, how do I have infinite mana? We'll get into that in a second, but it's one of the things that you can put in for Frozen Orb, in addition to all the brand new mana regen. So here we're going to be doing a world boss, but world bosses, you'll just melt them anyways. Next up though, you can optionally run Edge Masters. Now, you definitely want to run this amulet. It's just on the builder website, there's nothing. And just to put a placeholder, Edge Masters is fine. And then on one of your rings, if you have something that already has a Cursed Touch, or if you want to run a two-hander, you'll be down one aspect, so you can go ahead and just remove Storm Swell if you want, or if you want to remove a Cursed Touch, that's fine, because you can get applying vulnerability on your ring now. It's a newer mod that we'll get into in a second. And then Tal Rasha's ring, no explanation necessary for that. And then this one is actually important. This is one of the most important things to explain. So when Frozen Orb shoots out, it got a buff in the newest update where it will actually auto-target and it will explode perfectly on them. Before, it would pass the target and you'd lose all of your DPS because you didn't kind of position yourself perfectly. So with the new update, this is what makes Frozen Orb so dang powerful compared to the previous seasons. And so, as far as gems go, it really doesn't matter. It's basically the same thing. You can throw in topazes if you want to get some more DPS, but it doesn't really matter. So, the things that are important here. So, in our helm, we want mana per second. That's how we have a lot of regen over here. So, mana per second, int, life, cooldown are the main stats you want. And then you'll see over here I have temper. So, again, that's why it's very important that you watch the rest of this video all the way through, because it explains kind of some of the other things that you can run. And then for the aspect goes, you can run Assimilation, Concentration, Crowded Sage, Ever Living, or Undying, or you can run Concussion Strikes if you want. It's one of the newer aspects that you can roll on the Sorceress. For the chest, you're looking for mana per second. Again, every single area that you can get mana per second, that's kind of what you're looking forward to getting. So that's the same on the boots as well. You want like mana per second, life. It's all in the notes over here. I'll briefly go over it, but chest piece, mana per second, int, life, and then temper, dodge, and freeze, duration, or your freeze chance. Those are all great to get. Some of the things can also roll with like Frost Nova like size. You can get that if you want. On the gloves, attack speed, crit chance, ranks to Frozen Orb, and then you can temper cold damage or just raw damage. Don't get damage to like frozen or damage to like crowd control. The reason why is the boss's stagger bar will have to be built up. But on pants, you can get dodge. On the boots, if you want to. Again, I'll have this all linked down below. But boots, you just want life and regen as well as movement speed. And then we're going to scroll down over here to some of the other things that I want to get into that I kind of want to talk about that are more important. Again, everything will be linked down below in the pinned comment and the description. So for the rings, obviously Tal Rasha's, but the other ring, you can duplicate the same exact ring. So attack speed, crit chance, and chance for vulnerability. Ideally, you can get this to roll 2 different times. The reason why is because the duration is quite low, and so it only lasts 2 seconds on default, but that can be masterworked and you can get that even further, so it's increased duration and chance. It's like 35, so it's basically a Cursed Touch. However, with a Cursed Touch, I like it because it just like permanently has the thing vulnerable until you kill it, so it's kind of nice for that. But anything along lines of resource and chance to restore, resource generation, all those are great. But there is another thing specifically on the weapon that is actually kind of important to mention really quick. If the weapon is a two-hander, you can get resource cost reduction. That is pretty dang massive. If you are having resource problems, I would say earlier on, you can run that. Now there's another thing, and that is Elementalist Aspect. I have not gotten a good roll, so I'm running a two-handed, so I can get basically a 50% chance for that crit strike chance on a two-hander, because it's not a perfectly rolled. If you get a perfect Elementalist Aspect, which is absolutely godly, on a two-handed staff, just with that one item alone, you have 80% crit strike chance. And we're going to have so much mana, you can see that my mana just goes up instantly. And again, that is partially because of one of the newer things that got added in, and that is because with the Conjuration node on the passive tree, we're going to get insane amounts of regen because we're going to have all of those things. You can see right now, it's like 8, 7. Those are the conjurations. The more conjurations we have, the more damage we will be dealing, as well as our mana regen. It's kind of tied into both. So getting all that flat mana regen, getting increased mana regen is just going to make it go through the roof, and you'll always have that 100% crit. So that's why this build is very, very good. 100% crit is pretty big for any build in any video game. There's a few things that are different that you won't see in the skill tree, because I do want to go over this skill tree, but there are a few things that are different. I would recommend just kind of just copying it via just checking out the website. There's not really too much of an explanation needed here, but some of these won't match up because, again, the game has updated for Season 4, and none of these websites have everything perfect, at least as of right now. Things, of course, may change later when Season 4 comes out, but basically just a bunch of the passives over here. They're running Avalanche, but honestly, you could run Essu's Ferocity. There is some sort of breakpoint where Essu's Ferocity beats it out, but you'll have to have a really good roll on a lot of the other things for it to make sense. but you can still run Burn if you want to run instead of the Frost Nova enchantment. You can instead run the Esu's Ferocity, and then you can run the thing where you can get basically an extra like 50% attack speed. There's really no beating that 50% attack speed, but it's going to require your gear to be really good. So for the sake of this video, I'm not going to include any Uber uniques because it's the PTR right now. But once this game comes up live, I'll have another build guide with the Uber uniques too, because Uber uniques are actually going to be easier to acquire next season. But for now, Avalanche is fine. You can run the one where Avalanche lasts twice, and it also gives you some extra resources because it makes the next cast of the Frozen Orb consume no mana, which is good. But the things that are important here, Shimmering Armor over here makes it so you reduce its cooldown by 2 seconds for every 50 mana that we spend. We're just going to be spamming it. Basically, you'll get about 4 seconds of cooldown every single time, and because your Ice Blades are activating, you're going to have this up a lot of the time, and it's also going to actually give you extra mana as well because of the second node. Also, with Shimmering Frost Nova, this is what makes it so good with the brand new enchantment. Not only do you have a higher chance for it to proc, but instead of gaining mana immediately, how it works is it's going to grant you extra dodge chance per enemy hit. And since we're just constantly hitting everything, it goes up to 15%. But it works on max value against the bosses. So when you hit a boss, it gives you max value, and then for the next 8 seconds, we're going to keep this effect, and successful dodges generate 20 mana. Now, dodge has inverse multiplicative stats, which means you can't just go and get 100% dodge. Realistically, you get about like 30-ish% dodge, and then you get really bad returns on getting more dodge. But basically, you have a 1/3 chance of not getting hit, and when you don't get hit, you will generate mana. There's also a new aspect that will give you fortification if you do dodge. So you kind of double that up, you get barrier, and you're almost unkillable unless you get absolutely one-shotted or a Lilith Blood Wave or Skulls, multiple of them hit you, then yeah. But for the most part, the build is relatively immortal. But yeah, Fracture Winterglass is so dang good, so that's how we have all these Frozen Orbs constantly shooting around. But as far as the Paragon board, here's what we are looking at now. There's a couple things in the notes if you guys want to read. If you want more boss damage, you could swap out certain things, because with cold or any CC based build, if you get bonus damage to like cold or frozen, even though that's great to have, right, where like you can get maybe some extra bonus damage, you can swap them out for maybe Elementalists, because you'll be hitting them with all the elements. So you can swap to Elementalists, or you can do Control. It's kind of up to you on what you want to go for. But as far as it goes right now, we're running Elementalists, Unleash, Control, Enchanter over here, and then Destruction is great. You can actually run the Burn one as well if you want to put 1 point into Hydra, and then also Exploit, because that's pretty much the best setup. But this is what we're looking at for the board. I'll mouse over it kind of real quick in case you just want to use YouTube. So we go Enchantment Master on the second one with Unleash, then Elemental Summoner. If you want to grab this node, it's optional. You can get like 66 multiplicative damage on your summons, but just as a heads up, you'd be better off running Holocron Crest before you go for this, because right now we're just making Frozen Orb the star damage dealer. And then over here on our next one, we are running Frigid Fate, and then we go back down here for Ceaseless Conduit, and then we get Static Surge over here as our final one. And so this is going to be the Paragon board. But yeah, have some fun with it, guys. Let me know what you think of the brand new Frozen Orb build. I think it's a blast. A lot of people have been playing it, and you just keep things frozen. People will love you if you play this in a party, because again, everything's just permanently frozen. So any squishier builds, it's really excellent for them, because, well, if everything's frozen, it's not going to do damage to you. But that's going to be one of the top tier builds as far as I'm aware of right now that's newer. Blizzard's actually pretty strong too, but that's kind of something we've already seen before, and there's not really anything new for Blizzard other than you get more damage, a little more AoE. But this build is awesome, man. You're shooting things like crazy. As far as like the new Firewall and Incinerate builds, I'll give you guys some gameplay maybe of that later, but it's pretty underwhelming, and it's pretty hard to actually activate those. So as far as Season 4 goes, this is probably going to be one of the fan favorites and one of the top tier builds, because it doesn't have to micromanage certain like aiming precise techniques, so to speak. But that's the build, guys. Let me know what you think of it. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you're new and want to see more top tier Diablo builds, and it'll be linked down below. Take care. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.